He killed 40 million people, and because of that, the world got greener. That sentence sounds impossible. It sounds like something you misread, so let me say it again clearly. Genghis Khan killed so many human beings, so many farmers, so many city dwellers, so many entire civilizations, that the farmland they left behind turned back into forest. And those forests absorbed 700 million tons of carbon from the atmosphere. Scientists at the Carnegie Institution of Global Ecology have confirmed it. The Mongol invasion was the first recorded act of man-made global cooling in human history. The greatest mass murderer who ever lived was also, entirely by accident, the greatest environmentalist who ever lived. But that is not the most extraordinary thing about Genghis Khan. The most extraordinary thing is where he started. I'm your host. This is Fallen Empires, and this is the story of the most unlikely conqueror in human history. His name was not Genghis Khan. That came later. He was born Temujin, a name meaning iron, sometime around 1162, in a felt tent on the banks of the Onon River in what is now northern Mongolia. He was born clutching a blood clot in his right hand. The Mongols believed this was a sign of destiny. Looking back, it is difficult to argue with them. His father was a minor tribal chieftain named Yesuge. His mother Holin had been kidnapped by Yesuge from another tribe, a common practice on the Mongolian steppe where women were raided like livestock. Violence was the weather. When Temujin was 9 years old, his father took him on a journey across the steppe to find him a bride. On the way home, Yesuge stopped to eat with a group of Tatar warriors. They poisoned him at the meal. He died before he made it home. Temujin returned to find that his father's followers had abandoned them. Every warrior, every servant, every ally, gone. His mother was left alone with 7 children and no livestock. They survived by eating roots, fish, rats, and whatever they could find in the grass. Temujin was captured, fitted with a kangwe, a wooden board locked around his neck that prevented him from sleeping, and held as a prisoner. He was held as a prisoner, unable to sleep. He was approximately 9 or 10 years old. He escaped by hiding in a river at night. He was found the following day by the son of a sympathetic guard. He was hidden in a cartload of wool and reached safety. This is the beginning of the man who would rule the largest contiguous empire. Think about the distance between those 2 points, a starving child in a slave collar, and the conqueror of the known world. The journey between those 2 things is one of the most astonishing stories in human history, and almost nobody tells it properly. By his teenage years, Temujin had begun to build a reputation. He was resourceful. He was ruthless when necessary. He understood that survival on the steppe required alliances, and alliances required something to offer in return. He married at 16. His wife's name was Borti. They had barely settled together when she was kidnapped by the Merkits. Temujin gathered 20,000 warriors, a remarkable number for a man his age, and launched a rescue. He got her back. But Borti was already pregnant. The child she carried may or may not have been Temujin's. He chose to raise the boy as his own. In a world where lineage determined everything, that was an extraordinary act of either love or political calculation. Probably both. He was enslaved again in his early 20s by the Taichi-Ut clan. He escaped again with the help of a captor's son. Temujin understood something most rulers never grasp. The steppe was trapped in an endless cycle of tribal warfare. Nobody could win because the cycle never stopped. The only way to end it was to conquer it entirely. In 1206, at a great assembly, Temujin was proclaimed the supreme ruler of all the Mongol peoples, Genghis Khan, universal ruler. He was approximately 44 years old. He had survived everything the steppe could throw at him, and he was just getting started. What he built in the next 21 years defies rational comprehension. At his death, his empire covered 11 million square miles. He conquered more territory than any person in history, more than Alexander, Napoleon, or the Roman Empire at its peak. He did this with an army that never exceeded 200,000 men. It stretched from the Pacific to Europe. The civilizations that fell included the Jin dynasty, the Khwarezm Empire, and the Shisha kingdom. City after city was erased. Nishapur was a center of culture with 500,000 people. The Mongols killed everyone. They killed the cats and dogs. They piled the skulls into pyramids as a message to the next city. Scholars estimate 30 to 40 million people were killed. Genghis Khan's campaigns killed approximately 10% of every human being alive on Earth. The world wars combined killed 3% of the global population. Genghis Khan was 4 times deadlier. He had a system. Surrender and you will be spared. Resist and everyone dies. He was interested in territory, not rubble. The cities that resisted were destroyed completely, no exceptions. The point was to make the next city so terrified that resistance seemed impossible. It worked. The Mongol Empire was built on as much psychology as it was on violence. Fear was a weapon. Their cavalry could cover 100 miles a day. Every soldier maintained multiple horses so they could switch mid-campaign without stopping. They used smoke signals and burning torches to coordinate across vast distances. They were master tacticians. They were among the first to use biological warfare. They catapulted plague-infected corpses over city walls. Now let's talk about the green part. When a city was destroyed, the farmers died with it. The fields were abandoned. Trees grew back where crops had been. Forests expanded across territory that had been cleared by human settlement for centuries. The reforestation caused by the conquests absorbed 700 million tons of carbon from the atmosphere. One man, 40 million deaths, 700 million tons of carbon removed. History has no moral framework for this. Who was he as a person? He never allowed anyone to paint his portrait. No contemporary depiction of him exists. One Persian chronicler described him as tall with red hair and green eyes. Whether this is accurate, nobody can say. He was a man of contradictions. He abolished slavery among Mongols while enslaving others. He promoted based on merit. He practiced religious tolerance. Christians, Muslims, and Buddhists served in his court. He was an animist. He created the first international postal system. He established free trade across the Silk Road. He standardized weights and measures. He died in 1227 during a military campaign. He was 65. The cause of his death remains unknown. He had asked to be buried without markings. According to legend, every person the funeral party encountered was killed. A river was then diverted. Nobody has ever found the grave of Genghis Khan. The greatest conqueror in human history lies somewhere in an unmarked tomb. Genghis Khan was born a slave. Everything he became, he built from nothing, from less than nothing. He killed 10% of the human race, and his killing reforested the earth and cooled the climate. He abolished slavery and enslaved. The world is greener because Genghis Khan existed. Think about that the next time someone tells you history is simple. This has been Fallen Empires, new episodes daily. Subscribe because the most important stories are never simple.